It's lights out, everybody, and welcome back to the Low Downforce podcast, the For Friend Formula One podcast. But it is just the lads tonight. We are missing J9, but worry not. It is a preview episode. We have our predictions, but you are stuck with Josh, you are stuck with Matt, and you are stuck with myself. Ben, it's been a week off. We didn't have a race this past weekend. I missed it. I always feel like I miss Formula One more when I don't have it. But we've flown back across the pond, back to Europe. The European summer resumes in Austria, home of Red Bull. So much so, we are going to the Red Bull Ring for the Formula One MSC Cruises Austrian Grand Prix. Not a sprint edition this year. It was last year. And we'll talk about last year's race a little bit in just a second. But it is just your good standard race week. We are so ready for it. And who's more ready for it than Matt? Because he's here with Matt's track facts. Let's get into it.
Let's go. So, like mentioned, we're headed to Spielberg, Austria. Welcome to the Red Bull Ring. This has been I think it's 20th or 21st Grand Prix here. And it's an iconic circuit, to be honest. It's one of the shortest circuits on the calendar with one of the shortest lap times as well, which we'll get into. But it is a speedy track with an interesting history. The Österreich Ring, which is this Austria Ring, was built in 1969 as a replacement for the Zoutweg circuit that was held in Austria prior. And then that lasted 18 Grand Prix. And then in 1995 to 96, Hermann Tilke was able to help make it shorter, make it a more modern racetrack. And it is a doozy. 10 turns, 3 DRS zones, lots of overtakes. I think there were 46 last year, a lot coming from the DRS. Go take a look at this map of this circuit. It is very simple compared to the ones that we've seen in the past. It's going to have a lot of speed. 3 DRS zones, one on the start-finish straight, as well as right before and right after, or actually the next 2 straights. And there are going to be lots of overtaking hotspots, utilizing the DRS zones, going into the hard braking zones at turns 1, 3, and 4. We are going to see some medium to high brake wear, and we're going to be on the C3 to C5 tire compounds. Like we said, it's a shorter circuit, 71 laps at 4.3 kilometers per lap, which puts it in the bottom 5 of track length. There's going to be, we're low downforce, but there's going to be some medium downforce setups here. Lots of rear tire degs, so that looks good for us McLaren fans, I think. There's going to be some 90-degree turns that's going to put a lot of that wear on. And then there's some medium speed corners requiring a good bit of precision right through the middle of the track. Alain Prost ties Max Verstappen for the historical and current most wins at this track at 3. There is a 50% chance of a safety car is what I found. But in the last 5 races, there has been 11 full safety cars and 4 VSCs. So maybe more likely than 50%. And finally, the lap record for that short circuit time is from Carlos Sainz's 2020 run at 1 minute 5.619.
Yeah, I think it's nuts. There's different tracks, a lot of different characteristics, like you mentioned. There's a lot fewer corners than a lot of other tracks have. But this is exciting because this is where you see, I feel like, some of the power that Formula One has. We talked about it. Canada was only 1 lap shorter. Canada was a 70-lap race. This is a 71-lap race, yet the lap record is 5 seconds faster. It really is all about pedal to the metal, and we certainly saw a lot of that last year. As we mentioned, it was a sprint edition last year, so we did get a little chaos on Saturday. We're still kind of in that part of the season where McLaren was really starting to stretch its legs after that Miami package that kind of sent them to the top and ultimately to the Constructors' Championship. But it was Max Verstappen in front of the home Red Bull crowd that was able to hold off both Lando and Oscar, who were the McLarens fighting right behind him just 5 seconds back. But Max holds on to it, but it's a totally different story in the race because we just spent the Canada review talking about Lando crashing out. This time last year in Austria, we had Lando and Max going head-to-head, wheel-to-wheel, and it didn't work great for both of them, but Lando certainly got the worst end. From the lead, Max Verstappen and Lando bump wheels both suffer punctures. Max is able to get back to the pits and recover all the way back into fifth. Lando Norris, on the other hand, suffers too much damage from kind of a shredding rear wheel, destroys the back of the car. He has to retire from the race. And this kind of sets up the tone for all of last season when, even though Max holds on to the driver's championship, you're talking about, can McLaren catch him? Can Lando go wheel to wheel with a legend of the game, a GOAT of the sport in Max Verstappen, who we know is an aggressive racer? But I also look at this is where the cracks, I think, started to show for Red Bull. The only reason Max winds up in this battle with Lando is because of a very unusual 6.5-second pit stop for Red Bull, which at this point is unheard of. They're normally a machine, and so all of a sudden there's all kinds of chaos. And who's there whenever there's chaos? It's Mr. Does Nothing, gets the dub. It is George Russell. He always seems to be in the right spot at the right time, and I promise you that is not luck. There is a lot of skill to be in that spot. But it winds up being George's second win of his career at that point. Obviously, now he has 4 after just winning the Canadian Grand Prix in our last race. But if last year is any indicator, there is certainly room for chaos. There's certainly room for spice. And with so many overtaking opportunities, like you said, Matt, good likelihood that somebody's going to go wheel to wheel, maybe even wheel into wheel, as you mentioned, with the safety cars. But in our own championship, we got to see if some of us can catch up to Josh. He's been killing it all season long. I've been the exact opposite, but we still have a lot of season to go in our very own Predictors Championship. So, Josh, what do you have in terms of the scoreboard?
Yeah, can't brag, but I'm way out in front with 24 points. Next closest behind me is you, Matt, with only 16. So there's a big gap there. Shortly behind you is J9 with 14, and Ben, you are lagging way back with 11. So, I mean, it's still, we have plenty of season left.
I finished strong.
Anything can happen, but you guys got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
That is certainly the truth. So we must not wait any longer. We are chomping at the bit to put more points next to our names. And of course, as we go chronologically, that means we start with pole position. As I mentioned, we have J9's predictions. They are authenticated. You'll have to trust us. But Josh, with those duties, why don't you give us yours and her pole position prediction?
This is easy for me because we've both gone with the same guy. We've both gone with Oscar Piastri. Obviously, disappointing race weekend, actually, as a whole, in Canada, in Montreal. But we both think, I mean, Piastri has kind of proven he's the number one at McLaren right now. I know there's a lot of debate there, but yeah, I mean, he's been great on Saturdays, and I think he's going to continue that.
Yep, and I have to give it a little third on that one. I think he's got the car. He's got the guts to fight back. Like I said, the rear dag on the McLaren is looking good, and it is the right time if he's going to establish himself, I think, as the number one driver. Not saying that's going to happen, just if he's going to do it, this is a good time for it.
Does that mean all of us went Oscar? No, it does not, because I went with Max Verstappen. We talked about it is literally called the Red Bull Ring. There is a giant bull statue in the middle of the track. There's going to be tons of people cheering him on, and we've talked about Red Bull finding a little bit of success in some of those higher speed tracks. This is certainly one of those, and then obviously you got to show out for your crowd. You got to show out for everybody pulling for him. So we saw him kind of get the best, at least in the sprint race, and then during the race before kind of wheel touched wheel, but I've got him picking up where he left off, pole position. Now going into our podium, Matt, jumping right back to you, starting with third place. We gotta tease the winner a little bit first, so we're gonna start with the bronze medal. Who did you go with?
I went with George, coming hot off of Canada, having won last year at this race. I don't think the Mercedes is necessarily the best setup for this track, but he's on a roll right now.
Yeah, that I thought about putting George here because that Mercedes, both him and Antonelli looked really good last race. But I've actually gone Oscar Piastri. I have him falling down 2 slots, which is very rare for him because he's obviously a great driver. But yeah, I have him falling to third. And J9 has gone for Max Verstappen. So it is the Red Bull Ring, as you said.
I also was almost fully locked in George Russell as well, Matt, and then I looked at the weather forecast, and it is going to be quite toasty, even hotter on race day and qualifying than it was in Canada. So I kind of double backed and went with Lando Norris. At this point, a podium might be a good success for him, but you'll see in a minute when we get to our hot takes, and I'm putting some eggs in some different baskets. So look out.
Uh-oh.
But jumping right up into second place, I said Lando on a podium would be good for him, but it's not good enough because I've gone Oscar Piastri in P2. So championship lead extended.
Are they going to bump? 2-3?
We shall see. I don't know. I feel like all bets are off at this point. I think we're about to enter a different phase of kind of McLaren season now that we've already had first contact.
Yeah, I'm here for the drama because I had Piastri falling back to 2. I have Lando Norris jumping him, passing him up in a second. So, I think there's going to be some more drama. I think it's just going to be extended.
Do you mean a quite literal pass? I guess you went Oscar pole, so Lando's got to get past him on track
he'll
at some point.
get past him at some point. Whether it's strategy, I don't know. But, I think it'll be on merit. We'll see. And J9 has also gone for Oscar Piastri there, falling from pole, though, into that P2 slot.
Very nice. And I've gone Lando as well. I mean, I think he's going to fight all he can. But I think there's somebody else who's going to get away. But this is like a make or break for his momentum, in my opinion. And I don't see him not being able to get on that podium.
Who is it?
For number one.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just going to say Oscar. I think this is the time to step up. I think it's going to be a dramatic race, like you mentioned. And I think just Oscar's in the hot seat right now. It may not stay that way all season, but I think that there's a lot to be said about just the way they got themselves into that crash last week, who was ahead and who was behind. And I just see them kind of taking the 1-2.
I thought that's who you were going to say, but for a second, I thought you were going with who I have, which is Max Verstappen. I think he's going to have an incredible weekend. It is the Red Bull Ring, like you mentioned, Ben. He's had plenty of success here in the past. And I feel like he's much more at peace with the car. Like he obviously gets angry still in the car, but a P2 in Canada, he was like, oh yeah, we had a great weekend. He wasn't like, oh, we should have been P1. Like, I feel like he and the car are kind of one right now, and I think they're just gonna have a great weekend.
I also went Max Verstappen because I think, one, when there's chaos, he usually comes out on top. So if the McLarens are fighting, if the Mercedes are fighting, if Ferrari is trying to stick a nose in, we haven't really heard about the Scarlet team all that much yet, maybe at all. But I think also, like we've talked about it, Red Bull succeeds when they can focus on the one driver and they get it right, because all they have to do is focus on one half of the garage and all of that. And I think, like we've talked about, at home, with all the dust cloud behind them, I think Max comes out on top.
That's an interesting.
Who did J9 go with?
No?
Lando Norris. So.
Oh, you were going to leave that out, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot. Yeah. So right after the DNF, going straight on to the top of the podium.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that all of us would like to see that. I mean, maybe not you, Josh.
Not me.
Yes,
Josh, certified hater, is hoping that doesn't come true.
Hey, I have a P2. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And Ben, you mentioned, having all the efforts on one side of the garage. This is a great race for Max to have a presence. And I know it hasn't been announced to move into P10, but I think that, my P10 follows along those lines with Yuki. I think he needs to show up for the home crowd. Didn't hit it quite right in Japan. This is the last chance he really has to have a home field advantage, I call it. And I think he's going to capitalize on it.
I mean, he needs points, so that would be cool to see. I've gone Gabriel Bortoleto. First points of the year, sneaking out of P10. It'll partially relate to my hot take later. But I think as the season goes along, these rookies at the bottom are going to gain some more confidence and be ready to pounce.
I've gone with Alex Albon, which I don't think is like a knock. He's coming off of 2 races where he didn't finish. It's been a rough little stretch, and he's working to get back momentum. But I'm still a little curious. Williams was talking about how good they should have been in Canada, and this feels like a very different track in many ways, especially in terms of the speed of corners and things like that. So I want to see the Williams kind of rise back, kind of find their groove again, but I don't know if it's going to come all at once or just in small chunks. So I'm thinking Alex is going to make that first step to get back in the right direction with another points finish.
That would be good. And for the last P10, Janon has gone with Isaac Hadjar. So he's been in the points plenty this season, and he'll continue that success.
Yeah, coming off a rare not points finish in Canada.
Yeah.
A lot of strategy issues there, but you thought that was crazy. Now it's time for real craziness. It is time, of course, for the spicy hot takes. 3 times as crazy or 3 times as many points, but let's see how spicy, in fact, we did go. Josh, I'm going to kick it right back to you.
Yeah, I teased it earlier a little bit. I think one of the bad rookies will end up in the points. So whether that be Colapinto, who has 0 points this year, Bortoletto, who has 0 points this year, Liam Lawson, who has 4 points this year, or Ollie Behrman, who only has 6. I think one of those 4 guys who they've
So basically just not Kimi and Hadjar.
Yeah. I think one of them is going to end up in the points.
Cool. Very nice. I'd love to see it. I've gone with track limits deciding a top 5 finish. So, of the top 5, there's going to be a lot of speed up there. And with all that flying around these curves, I think we're bound to see a shakeup at the top of the order, simply based off of the track limits. I don't know if that's.
Do you mean, is this like track limits that they will pick up like a time penalty during the race, or are you talking like track limits during qualifying get a time deleted and then they just don't make it back? Because we saw that, I think it was this exact track last year with Oscar Piastri. I think he went just over the gravel and he really wasn't in contention for the win at any point during the race when, we saw Lando was fighting up there. So
yeah, I think it'll be during the race. I think that there's going to be, whether the penalty is added retroactively, thumbs up, whether it's that or if it's a penalty served during the race, I think that somebody's going to get penalized just for trying to go too fast around this circuit.
Okay, I like it. It's hot.
Speaking of penalties, like I said, I spread my eggs. I don't want this to happen, but I'm going real spicy. I'm going to go with, for the second race in the row, Lando Norris does not finish the race. However, I'm going to say this time it is not his fault. So he won't. So even though it was really meaningless in Canada, he winds up getting a time penalty for causing the collision with Oscar. So I'm going with, he doesn't pick up penalty. It's not like his fault, but if it's a racing incident, if somebody else crashes into him, or it's a mechanical failure that is out of Lando's control. But I think a back-to-back DNFs is quite spicy for McLaren this year.
It's quite the interesting strategy for you to predict Lando to DNF and also to finish on the podium.
Well, of course what's going to happen is he's going to finish on the podium, but not where I predicted him, and so neither of them are going to come true, but, spread it thin. It's certainly, like we talked about, this race was not great for Lando. I don't know if he's going to look to bounce back and find momentum that he was competing for the win last year, or if it's going to haunt him a little bit and something's going to go wrong again.
Yeah, well, maybe it could be Max Verstappen, because J9's prediction is that Max will get his 12th penalty point and have to be banned for a race. So who knows?
So we did, just to clarify, we did talk about it around Canada. Max obviously clean race, doesn't pick up any penalty points, but the way the penalty point system works, of course, you pick up 12 points in a 12-month span, and you get banned for a race. But you don't accumulate those points all at once. So once you hit the 12-month mark for any points, those points expire. So you're rarely sitting at the top for that long. However, the timing of the race last year, we keep talking about the race in Austria last year, just the way the calendar falls, Max is sitting on 11 points until Monday after the race. So he'll get out of the woods a little bit. I think he loses like 2 or 3 more penalty points after this weekend. So this is kind of the last race that he's in jeopardy of potentially picking up a quick one race suspension. But just because it happened at this race last year doesn't mean he's clear and free this year. He does have to make it through this weekend because his penalty points hold until Monday. And then, of course, that changes. But I feel like we've given you enough reason to watch this race. We've gone all over the place for our crazy predictions. We've got different winners, different podiums. No Ferraris, unfortunately, Josh. So maybe they'll prove us wrong and none of us will get points.
He doesn't even look upset.
No, I mean, I'm used to it. The only fun Ferrari fact that I've seen floating around that is fun to mention is we're the only team to have completed every lap this season. So it hasn't really converted into points because we did have a double disqualification in China. But hey, at least we haven't crashed out of any races.
Pretty easy to finish a race when you're going slow. You know how it be. I'm only half joking, of course, but we are back in Europe.
There's much slower teams.
We are, of course, back in Europe, as we mentioned, which means those of you on the East Coast of the United States like us, we're going to have to get back in that routine of getting up a little early. Qualifying is at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Grand Prix is at 9 a.m. on Sunday on ESPN. Not too early. We've seen some 8 a.m. races, so still plenty of time to get a little morning coffee in, to sleep in an extra 30 minutes, just in time for the formation lap. But this is also the beginning of a double header with Silverstone. So there's a lot of great racing coming our way. Of course, Red Bull Ring, it's in the name. It's going to be great to watch. You'll just have to tune in. And of course, we will be here after the race to break it all down. Did our predictions come true? Is there more crashing? Are there more safety cars? We will just have to wait and find out. But you will get all of that here next week. So until then, everybody, stay speedy. Goodbye.